In December 1872, the mid-Atlantic was a place of total isolation. Without radio or satellite tracking, a ship adrift was a ship lost. If you were forced into the water, the ocean swallows you whole. Folklore suggests the boarding party found a surreal, impossible scene: half-eaten breakfasts still sitting on the dining table and warm cups of tea in the galley, as if the crew had vanished mid-sentence. The historical record is more precise. On December 4th, Captain David Morehouse and the crew of the Dei Gracia spotted the Mary Celeste 400 miles east of the Azores, sailing with no one at the helm. Morehouse watched the vessel for 2 hours. It was yawing erratically, swinging into the wind and falling off under short canvas, the clear signature of a ship that had lost its guidance. The mystery centers on the choice made by 10 people: a seasoned captain, his wife, his young daughter, and 7 experienced sailors chose to leave a structurally sound vessel for the open sea. First Mate Oliver DeVoe led a small party to board the silent ship. They climbed the side and began a methodical search of the decks. They found the Mary Celeste to be a wet, disorganized mess, but she was fundamentally seaworthy. She was well provisioned, with months of food and water remaining. There was no one on board, dead or alive. The personal quarters were undisturbed. This photograph of a period cabin shows the type of environment DeVoe encountered. The crew's valuables, their dry clothing, and their personal sea chests were left exactly where they had been stowed. The ship was a maritime locked room mystery. 10 people had disappeared into the ether, leaving behind an intact crime scene and a ship that showed no obvious reason for abandonment. Investigating the Mary Celeste requires an analysis of the physical evidence, separating the forensic realities from a century of ghost ship tropes. The cargo manifest rules out piracy. The ship was carrying 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, and the boarding party found it entirely untouched. The crew's valuables remained in their quarters. A thief would have taken both. The lack of a struggle suggests there was no mutiny. There were no signs of violence and no blood on the deck. Furthermore, the presence of the captain's wife and 2-year-old daughter makes internal violence among the crew an unlikely scenario. While the North Atlantic is volatile, the ship had not faced a catastrophic weather event. Below deck, an upright vial of sewing machine oil was found sitting in its place. Had the ship capsized or rolled severely, that vial would have been found shattered. Since no external threat attacked the ship and no internal violence occurred, the force that emptied the deck was likely a perceived danger rather than a visible one. The clues on deck suggest an evacuation that was hurried but controlled. The ship's single yawl was missing, and a section of the guardrail had been removed to allow for a deliberate launch. Captain Briggs gathered essential survival tools before leaving. His navigation book and the captain's sextant were missing from his cabin. The marine chronometer was also gone. These are the tools of a professional who intends to navigate his way to safety on the open water. However, the sailors left their tobacco pipes behind. In the maritime world of 1872, a sailor only abandons his pipe if he believes he is in immediate, abject peril. Near the center of the deck, the boarding party found a mechanical anomaly. One of the ship's 2 bilge pumps had been completely disassembled, its components lying out in the open. Beside the broken pump was a makeshift sounding rod, a discarded stick used to measure the depth of water in the hold. The presence of the disassembled pump and the measuring rod indicates that the crew was preoccupied with the water levels inside the hull moments before they abandoned the ship. On its previous voyage, the Mary Celeste had carried a cargo of coal. The resulting dust and debris settled in the bilges, eventually clogging the ship's pumps. When one pump failed, Captain Briggs was left blind. The cargo hold was packed so tightly with barrels that he couldn't visually inspect the ship's bottom to see how much water was leaking in. Briggs was forced to use a makeshift sounding rod. If blocked by debris in the pumps, that rod would provide a dangerously false reading, convincing the captain that the ship was rapidly taking on water and about to founder. The industrial alcohol cargo added a volatile threat. While most of the 1,701 barrels were white oak, exactly 9 were porous red oak. Industrial alcohol leaked through their grain into the unventilated hold, filling the space with highly explosive vapor. The combination of mechanical failure and an invisible chemical threat created a psychological pressure cooker, convincing a seasoned crew that their ship was a sinking bomb. On the morning of November 25th, Captain Briggs faced a sensory overload. His pumps were broken, his sounding rod suggested severe flooding, and explosive fumes rose from below. Believing he was minutes away from an explosion or a total sinking, Briggs ordered his family and crew into the small yawl. They did not plan to leave the ship forever. They tethered the lifeboat to the Mary Celeste's stern using a heavy rope, the main peak halyard, planning to wait a safe distance away for the vapors to clear. But as a squall hit the area, the wind caught the Mary Celeste's sails. The larger ships surged forward, putting immense tension on the tether until the rope snapped, separating the crew from their only chance at survival. This engraving illustrates the likely aftermath. 10 souls were left adrift in an open boat, watching as their seaworthy ship sailed away into the Atlantic without them. The tragedy of the Mary Celeste was not a result of ghosts or monsters, but a series of mechanical failures and miscalculations. Tricked by his own instruments into a fatal choice, a seasoned captain left his ship behind to save a crew never in any danger.